All right. So, Grace, this is a video for you while I try to keep my heart rate under 135, 140. I'm doing a 2.5 hour ascent on Mount Rainier. It dumped a whole bunch of snow last night and it's below freezing, although it's quite sunny and the sun is lovely and warm. But as you can see, it's quite interesting conditions. Anyway, today is a training hike. I have a 26-pound pack on and spikes and mountaineering boots. The reason why I'm doing this is because obviously I'm training to climb Mount Rainier. In 4 weeks at this time, I will have a similarly weighted pack, be dressed the same, be on the same trail, maybe a little further ahead on my way up to Camp Muir in an attempt to summit 4 weeks from tonight. So anyway, it is lovely, and I thought I would take a moment to talk to you about dopamine, because we were talking about that. You wanted to know more, so I'm just doing a video here. So why am I interested in dopamine? Primarily because I'm fascinated with dopamine's role in addictive behavior, and how especially interested in the role of dopamine in predictive reward signaling, because its ability to anticipate, or it's not its ability, but in its role in anticipation is seems to be quite interesting and related to the fact that in chronic pain, anticipation of pain produces a nearly identical neurological signal as the actual experience of pain acutely, and therefore imagining pain, anticipating pain, is essentially just as painful an experience, and therefore in chronic pain, it's quite an important factor. Anyway, I got fascinated with dopamine recently because I took on an experiment, and not a particularly scientific experiment, because I didn't necessarily have a hypothesis, and I'm personally the subject of the experiment, so there's all kinds of biases going on. But for my own purposes of observation and learning and application to my own life, it seemed fascinating. So, I'm gonna slow down because obviously I'm getting a little out of breath. I think when you were visiting, I had started playing this game on my phone called Foundation Galactic Frontier, and it's a cool game. It's really fun. Of course, I love the whole Asimov Foundation series. I'm rereading it now, actually, in old 1960s paperback form, which is great. It smells like old bookstores. Brings me back to my childhood. Anyway, the game itself, I figured out right away when it says free, but in-app purchases, that there was going to be some monetization involved, and therefore there would be some behavior manipulation on the part of the game mechanics, which is cool. I get it. But as I got into the game, I realized that the mechanics of it, the way it's structured, the way it's set up, It was pretty fascinating. And so I started having a in-depth conversation with Claude about it. And so I have this great long thread, learned all sorts of interesting things. I started off the thread kind of whining and complaining a little bit about how some of the things in the game that would have provided me with benefit or advancement were kind of hard to get, were confusing, and I had to discover things, and I wanted to discover them quicker. But I was also enjoying the play, and eventually I realized that it starts off with the story and characters in the story and evolution and plot twists and occasional engagement and easy advancement, like no cost advancement. Like, for example, there's this whole mothership scenario where there's all of these different rooms that you can develop, and some of them you had to repair to get them started, and then you can upgrade them for free. You can upgrade them over and over, much higher levels, all for free, instantaneous. And there's a pattern with an instant reward. And there are other things like character advancement, which you can also get free and quickly advance. And eventually, you realize that the story is petering out, but there's this way to get more involved and continue to advance. If you join a guild is actually composed of other human beings on the server, and you join them and you get benefits, lots of benefits. Ultimately, in the conversation with Claude, I asked the question, does this game ever end? Is there a goal? Of course it says no. That's not the point. The point is that it's supposed to make money for the developers. And once you get past all of the story, then all that's left is guild participation in events, which can be quite profitable and allow you to continue to advance, but there's no real point in it other than to compete. And in order to compete more effectively, you have to get more resources, and they run out. And then as soon as you attain certain levels, there are new levels that are even harder to attain unless you have greater resource flow. And it's just basically, ultimately, Claude came up with a great way of describing it. I don't remember the quote exactly. It was brilliant though, I laughed. So, but basically it's engineered compulsion loops. So we talked about that a little bit. Hey, how you doing?
Huh?
How are you doing?
Good.
Right on.
Chilling.
Nice. Yeah.
No snowshoes either, yeah.
Nah. Yeah. It's all good. Anyway, so the fascination with dopamine is how deeply out of balance it can get. And so these engineered compulsion loops, turns out, not only does it provide you with constant easy rewards, but they're scheduled. There's a major server refresh at 5 p.m. Pacific time, which is, midnight UTC. And then, like every 5 hours or so, there's a major refresh. Or a minor refresh, and then there's a daily refresh, and then there's a weekly refresh. And yeah, there's all these events and all these people you're getting all this false camaraderie with. And yeah, if you let it get a hold of you, and your dopamine system will start kicking in, optimizing your thought patterns. So there's the classic study, I don't remember the dude's name, I think it was in the 90s, where it seems kind of cruel, but they had a monkey and they attached some electrodes to a sensor to some dopamine neurons, which the idea of a dopamine neuron is interesting. Neurons that specialize in producing dopamine. Don't know anything about that, but that's cool. And they must have done something mean, like fix the monkey's head into place or something so that he could see. And what they did is turn on the light, wait a few seconds, and then squirt some juice in his mouth. And juice goes in his mouth, dopamine neurons fire. Hey gang, how you guys doing?
Yeah, how you doing? Well.
How far are you up? You planning on going?
Yeah. I don't know.
Far as you can?
Yeah.
Man, your snow's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, good choice, good call. So, dopamine neuron fires when it gets the reward. Now we're starting to learn, eventually, no, it doesn't take long with a reward like juice in your mouth. And it's not like you're busy doing other things because your head's in a trap. Eventually, the light comes on, dopamine neuron fires, juice squirts out later. And so dopamine neurons, and the dopamine is associated with anticipation of reward. And this is where it gets really interesting, right? So if you anticipate a reward, dopamine fires up. And the idea behind the system is you go foraging for berries. You know that it's gonna be hard to find them. They're not just everywhere, right? So there's some effort required. But eventually you're gonna find some, and your brain will reward you for it because you get food. But you know there's gonna be some, otherwise you wouldn't forage there. So the fascinating twist is in the experiment is then you turn the light on after this dopamine delivery's been conditioned, and then poor stuck head monkey doesn't, wow, this is really soft, doesn't get the juice, and suddenly the dopamine neuron doesn't just go baseline or not react. It just like shuts off. And this sort of anti-signal, surely there's a good term for it. It's basically like this error prediction signal. Wow, snowshoes would have been a good idea. Snowshoe prediction. No, dopamine prediction error. Reward prediction error. Where the monkey suddenly has this, you know, let's call it disappointment. Like, oh, the light comes on, but I don't always get a reward. That's a bummer. So, turns out, this system, while it's good for foraging, oh my gosh, this is gonna exhaust me on this post hole. The reward system, guys on skis.
Oh, yeah.
Get on by, yeah, guys. Pack it down for me.
Yeah, it looks rough.
I'm like, oh, I'm post holing. This is rough. Yeah, stomp hard. Oh, it's better already. Maybe. Anyway, the fascinating part of this is that this system, which is engineered to keep us motivated to get food, but not pursue dead ends can be manipulated. And that's what casinos do. And of course, my thought was, wow, this is intentional. And it is. But the interesting part, from an observer standpoint, is they didn't think, here's how the dopamine system works. Here's the loophole that we're going to exploit. They didn't have to do that. All they had to do was repeated A/B testing on behavior. Just keep optimizing. And the dopamine imbalance would automatically manifest itself in human behavior. They didn't even need to know what dopamine was. They just took advantage of people and put them into these intense toast environments, where toast in this case is a term to indicate those little freaking red dots that show up on your app, and you see it and your dopamine fires off. Oh, there's something there, could be important, there's a reward. And then you go click on whatever it is that has the red dot, and you get whatever reward it is. It might be crappy, it might be meaningless, it might be junk, but you keep doing it because you keep getting rewards and it's easy and instant. So anyway, that's what this game does. These engineered compulsion loops. Like, there are low-level rewards scattered everywhere, and you just keep collecting them. And eventually, higher-level rewards appear, and that's so gratifying. But then you have these other high-level rewards that you're just out of reach. And if only you could get them, you'd be catching up to all those other players who are spending money buying stuff that gets them further ahead themselves. So, yeah, it's insidious. And one of the fascinating things about this dopamine imbalance is it kind of hijacks your brain, where the idea is whenever you come to a moment neurologically where you are in a transition, a cognitive transition, you finish doing the dishes. Like, that's a great example. Millions of others. Moments where you go, oh, what do I do next? And, 99% or more of humanity, way more, doesn't even recognize that there's this moment of transition. They're just in a transition. And they think, what next? And when their dopamine is massively imbalanced by a delivery mechanism like this game, first thing that pops into their head is the game. So, for example, consciously, I have made a point that whenever I get to a moment where I feel not only am I in transition, but the game is the first thing that comes to mind, I say it out loud, right? I hear the call of the game. This doesn't mean I immediately play it. Sometimes I do anyway. Sometimes it's just a time. Other times, it's just random. Like, I finished doing the dishes, and I haven't begun to think of what am I going to do next, and the game comes up in my head. That's because my dopamine delivery system is way out of whack, and the fastest path to reward is to turn on that game, because I know I'll get something right away, and I might be missing something, and there's anticipation, and maybe something's going on that I need to know about, blah, 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 blah. And I will tell you that as I watch other players, wow, major post-war, some of these people, like how did they get to such a high level? How are they so powerful? There's just a little feature where you can buy packs to get more resources, and if you buy a pack, you actually have to opt out of having your name show. You go to the guild, and in this guild tab, there's a button there for gifts, And you go in there, if your guild is really active, there's tons of gifts. They're not great, but the more people buy expensive things, their name shows up. This dude bought this pack, and then you get a bunch of rewards for it as well. It's like, wow, they just spent. One of these games I was playing, I was in there, I was like, why is that guy so far ahead of me? I went into the gift shop, or the gift delivery thing or whatever, and he was like, his name is The Observer, bought this pack. And I was like, that pack is $100. That dude just spent $100 to get these resources. Like $100. I saw a video trying to explain to me how to do certain things, and it was baffling, and this guy was terrible. But along the way, he was like, yeah, and then those guys over there, you know, not even worth competing with them. They spent like $10,000, $20,000. I'm like, oh, breaks right now. Whew, yeah, so anyway, it's fascinating. I still play the game. I spend money. I'm not sure I'm happy about it. I made the decision, like this. I made the decision for every dollar I spend in the game, I had to spend an equal dollar in a donation to the church. But yeah, for addiction theory, one of the things that got surfaced in my conversation with Claude was getting out, because there's no end, because there's this social camaraderie that's, it's artificial, but they're real human beings out there. Like, I've seen people say, I'm quitting, I can't do this anymore, and then 2 weeks later they're playing again. And I'm like, yay, you're back, we missed you. Some dude posted, yeah, sorry, I've been away, my mom died. Some other dude posted, yeah, I've been away, my dog died. And it's just like, this compulsion is profound, and the sense of community is small. But if you don't have much of a community at all, then this fulfills a partial need and convinces you that the partial need is enough. So then you just stay in, play the stupid game for hours, which I don't do, but I found myself in compulsive loops. And the game's fun, but I could be paying attention to my cats, I could be practicing the piano, I could be writing, for God's sake. So many things. I could be working on my chronic pain series, blah, blah, blah. But the point is, the experiment for me is, what does it feel like to be in this heavily dopamine imbalanced state where, given a choice, I've got a list of things, like, and the game is currently at the top because it's annoying and it pops up, but like in those transitions I have my list. Like, I could practice the piano, or I could play the game, I could work on my chronic pain series, or I could play a game, I could play with cats, I could do this task, I could do these things, winds making. Anyway, fascinating. And it's just a question, what does it mean to stop? And how does one stop in the context of dopamine firing off constantly, predicting rewards, and being reinforced so frequently and powerfully, such that you decide to stop, and 2 weeks later you're still getting these dopamine signals. Do this, go do the game, you'll get your reward that you're not getting from interacting with human beings in the real world. You'll get a reward, you'll get recognition from your friends, blah blah blah. This is fascinating. There's a part in the conversation with Claude where we talked about addiction treatment and what it takes to quit. He said something clever, which I'll have to go back and find, about how addiction treatment kind of fails at a certain point to address what the dopamine system should latch onto instead. What is a healthy reward relationship like? What kind of rewards are they? And how do you make them salient enough to get a dopamine imbalance with perpetual easy rewards? Like open a bottle of alcohol, have a sip, instant reward. How hard was that? Don't open the bottle. What else are you gonna do? What else is gonna reward you like that? Anything. So, yeah, it's a, AI does weird things, refer to it as the quiet failure or something like that, the quiet something. Yeah, modality and the nature of it, how it works, all those things are known, and yet knowing them here we go, right? Knowing something is cognitive, is prefrontal cortex stuff, which requires, if you're gonna downregulate that need, you have to do it by choice, by conscious, higher cognitive process. And most people aren't really good at that. They're driven by the autonomic system, sends strong signals, and then consciously they assign their autonomic experience with their conscious state. So that's a whole nother story. But the idea of finding other rewards that are complex requires complex reasoning and, the old prefrontal cortex stuff. And there's a whole opportunity there. And the end, I better check my heart rate. I bet it's a lot higher than I want it to be. Fun chatting.